Hello everyone. So let's continue with the next topic, the making of nationalism in Europe, and this is from class 10 history, the first lesson, and the name of the lesson is Rise of Nationalism in Europe. And this is the third video of the series. Earlier we have already done 2 videos and the playlist is given there. The previous videos are already given in the playlist. You can just watch it in order to have a revision of the topic. So let us continue today with the making of nationalism, topic number 2, that is the making of nationalism in the continent of Europe. So here you are going to understand that how the countries came together and they shared the idea of nationalism. If you look at the map of mid 18th century Europe, you will find out that there were no nation states as we know them today. So like 1750 to 1760 during that time. So most of the places were like owned by ruled by the kings and monarchs, and what we know today as Germany, Italy and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, small duchies, that is ruled by dukes and duchess, and cantons, that is also another area ruled by nobleman kind of administrative rule was there. So there these kingdoms, duchies and cantons whose rulers, the small rulers, had their autonomous region. Autonomous means they could do whatever they want according to their own wish, just they had to offer some kind of allegiance to the monarch. So this is a particular area, suppose, and another this area, and another king attacked another area, then it went under that king, but the people did not follow any kind of allegiance to that new ruler. So what we also come to know is that the Central and Eastern Europe were under autocratic monarchies, within the territories of which lived diverse kind of peoples. They did not see themselves as sharing a collective identity. Suppose let us take the example of France. This is France, you can see here I have drawn here, and this is France, the kingdom of France, and suppose the king of France has attacked a nearby country called Germany. So they have different culture, they have different kind of language and everything and all like that. So if this particular kingdom was attacked by another king of a nearby kingdom, at the time this territory went under the new kingdom, but however their language, their culture remained the same. So suppose this is Germany and this is France. So suppose if the kingdom of France or the emperor and the army of France had attacked Germany and they take over the control of the country of Germany, then what will happen? Now they have different language, different culture. So here these people will not have any kind of similarity with the people of France, neither France will have, the country of France will have any similarity with the people of Germany. So they did not belong to any collective country. They belong to different culture, different language, and that is why they did not see themselves as sharing a collective identity or a common culture. And very often it is seen that they even spoke different languages and belonged to different ethnic groups, like the groups were like from where they really originated, the people, those who came from a certain background. So all these things were completely different ethnic groups were there, like some were from different religion, Christianity, some were from other religions, etc. So here we also come to know about very important Habsburg Empire. So what is this? What was this Habsburg Empire? Let us read about that also. So this Habsburg Empire that ruled over Austria-Hungary of the present day today, for example, was a patchwork. Patchwork means something that is torn and you just join it and you just try to repair them together. So it was a patchwork, or it was a coming together of many different regions and peoples. Why? Because this Habsburg Empire included the Alpine regions, that is the Tyrol, the Austria, the Sudetenland, as well as Bohemia, whereas aristocracy, the rich people, the noblemen, were predominantly German-speaking people, but the other people did not speak German language. It also included the Italian-speaking provinces of Lombardy and Venetia. So you can understand that in Habsburg only German-speaking people were also there, and Italian-speaking people also were there in Lombardy and Venetia. So these all places where geographical differences were there, but however during this time these people lived together under one empire, but they did not share any kind of similarity. You can also see here on the side there is a certain blue color chart, you can see all the important years, how the struggle began and what happened in which year. Is very important for examination. Let us go to the next part, and it is said here that in Hungary, that is a country, half of the population spoke Magyar language, while the other half spoke a variety of other languages or dialects also. In Galicia, another small country, the aristocracy, the rich people, the nobleman, kings spoke Polish language. So here in one particular empire, there were so many differences. The people were speaking different languages, the people belonged to different areas, they had different culture, aristocrats spoke differently, the common people spoke differently. So what do we come to know from here? That besides these three dominant groups, there also lived within the boundaries of the empire a huge number of subject peasant peoples, those who were farmers and all. They were Bohemians and Slovaks in the north side. And also we come to know about the Slovenes in Carniloa, and the Croats were there to the south side, and the Romans were there in the east side of Transylvania. So such differences did not easily promote a sense of political unity. So you can understand here that the Slovenes in Carniola, the Croats in the south, the Romans were there. So all these people were different from each other. So you can see here, these people belonging to one state and another state or countries together, they belong to one particular empire, but they did not have any similarity among them. So these were the problems where the people could not gather any kind of unity, and there was no political unity among the people also. But one only tie was there that was binding or bringing these diverse groups together, was that a common allegiance to the emperor. So there was the emperor of the whole area, of the whole continent, of the geographical area, and that emperor or the king, he only ruled over the Habsburg Empire, but all the people, all the subjects were different from each other. So in this such kind of situation, how did the idea of nationalism coming together and the idea of the nation state emerge? That was a big question, and it was a big challenge also. So let us try to understand that how did it begin. Let us try and understand that idea of nation state was not a simple thing, and it took a long time to bring the people together who shared different differences, who did not share any equality. And the first topic of this particular lesson of this part is 2.1, the aristocracy and the middle class. Let us talk about the rich people, the aristocrats, and the middle class people. So socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class on the continent. In the European continent, a continent where the aristocrats were mainly the dominant class, they were more rich, they were able to control the other poor people. So the members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across the regional divisions. So here we come to know that although the people were different from each area, but they were all aristocrats, they were all together, and that is why the aristocrats of all the different places had regional divisions, but they lived in an equal kind of lifestyle, and that is why they owned estates or large areas in the countryside, in the village areas, and also town houses. They also had houses in the big palatial houses in the towns also. And they spoke only one language, that is French, for the purpose of diplomacy and friendship, and in high society. So French was considered to be a very dignified and sophisticated language, and that is why even though they were situated in different areas, the aristocrats lived in different places, different cantons, different kingdoms, but they spoke French so that they could have friendship and they could have diplomacy. Their families were also connected by the ties of marriage. So one aristocratic family had given the marriage of their son or daughter to another aristocrat family, so that they would have commonness and they would have friendship between the two families. This powerful aristocracy was, however, numerically a very small group, although it means that they were united, but it was a very small group because the majority of the population was made up of all peasantry. That means all the farmers and all the peasants. And to the west side of the continent, if you see of Europe, the bulk, the huge area of the land was found by the tenants. That means they did not have their own land, they used to do farming on others' land, and small landowners were there. While in the eastern and the central Europe, the pattern of land holding was characterized by vast estates, and there were vast estates owned by the rich aristocrats, and they were cultivated by the serfs. The serfs had to work under the rich landlords as like slaves, and they had no freedom, and they had to work and even give their share of their produce to the main estate holders, that is the big aristocrat families or the noblemen also. So these serfs were actually having a very bad condition during the time, and the aristocracy had dominated over them for many years. And what happened in the western and the parts of central Europe, let's see about that also. In Central Europe and parts of the Western Europe, the growth of the industrial production and trade meant that the growth of towns and the emergence or the beginning of the commercial class. That means the people, those who were doing business, whose existence was based on, or whose main activities were based on the production for the market. So whatever things they will produce would be sold in the market, and this would be giving them the growth of industrial production also, and this trade would give them a profit also, which would lead to the growth in their business, and this would bring a commercial class and the growth of the towns. Industrialization, the beginning of industries, began in England in the second half of the 18th century. So if you say here in the second half of the 18th century, like it is like, you can say like 1750, not actually 1750, you can say it from 1740 only, 1740s to 1760s. During these years, you can understand that the half of the 18th century, the industrialization began. But however, in France and some parts of the German states, it occurred only during the 19th century. So in the 18th beginning of that. So in its wake, when it began, new social groups came into being. There was a new population, that is a working class population, and middle class. They were neither rich, they were neither poor, and this middle class included the industrialists, the businessmen, the professionals working in the offices. And in Central and Eastern Europe, these groups were actually smaller in number till late 19th century, and it was among these educated liberal, those who wanted freedom, and middle classes, that ideas of unity, the national unity, the people of different middle classes should be united, and following the abolition of aristocratic privileges, gained popularity among these middle class people. So although they were smaller in number, it was thought that they were educated, and definitely they were educated, and that is why the middle class had the ideas that we must abolish the aristocratic privileges, whatever the rich people, the aristocratic, the noblemen, they are getting. Why they were considered that they only should be getting this? So we, the people of the middle class, also should be getting popularity. So they also should have the equal rights in the society. These ideas gained popularity, and this is how the condition changed, and this led to a feeling of unity and united togetherness in the continent. So these ideas also gave birth to the idea of nationalism, because if you come together, then you will have a love for the country. So next we will read about the next chapter, next part, that is liberalism. Liberal nationalism, what does it stand for? We'll read about that in the next chapter. So till that, you can revise and you can understand what was taught, and you can also see the playlist. Thank you.